Jake Sullivan felt the ship shake violently around him as the Aurora began its uncontrolled descent toward the green planet below. The warning lights flashed red across the bridge while alarms screamed their urgent message of system failure. Jake gripped his command chair and watched the surface of Zarian 7 grow larger in the main view screen. "Emergency power to the shields." Jake shouted over the noise, but his engineering officer was already unconscious from the impact that had torn through the ship's hull. The Aurora had been on a routine survey mission when something had struck them without warning. Jake never saw what hit them, but the damage was complete and final. The ship crashed through the thick canopy of alien trees with a sound like thunder. Metal screamed against wood and rock as the Aurora carved a deep furrow through the jungle floor. Jake felt himself thrown forward against his restraints as the ship finally came to rest in a clearing, surrounded by towering purple leaf trees. Smoke filled the bridge, and Jake could hear the hiss of escaping atmosphere from somewhere deep in the ship. He unbuckled himself and stumbled through the wreckage looking for survivors. The corridor was twisted and dark, but he could hear voices calling from different sections of the ship. His crew was scattered, but some were still alive. "Everyone to the emergency pods," Jake called out as he made his way toward the sound of voices. The ship's hull was cracked in several places, and he could see the alien sky through the tears in the metal. They had maybe an hour before the Aurora became completely uninhabitable. Jake found 3 crew members trapped in the medical bay and helped them reach the escape pods. The ship's computer was dead, but the emergency systems still functioned. As his crew prepared to evacuate, Jake made a decision that would change everything. "I'm going to search for more survivors," he told his communications officer, Betty Adams, as she prepared to seal her pod. "Launch in 30 minutes, whether I'm back or not." Jake knew the smart thing would be to evacuate with his crew, but he couldn't leave anyone behind. He grabbed an emergency kit and headed deeper into the wrecked ship. The Aurora groaned around him as damaged supports finally gave way under the stress of the crash. He found 2 more crew members unconscious but alive in the engine section. Getting them to the pods took longer than expected, and by the time Jake returned to the pod bay, he could see the last escape pod disappearing into the alien sky. His crew had followed orders and left him behind. Jake stood alone in the wreckage of his ship and looked out at the strange world around him. The jungle was thick and green with sounds he had never heard before. Strange birds called from the canopy while insects buzzed in the humid air. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth standard, and the air smelled of flowers and something else he couldn't identify. He checked his emergency kit and found enough supplies for maybe a week. The survival manual recommended staying with the ship and waiting for rescue, but Jake knew that rescue might not come. The Aurora had been exploring the outer rim where few Earth ships traveled. He would have to find his own way to survive. Jake walked away from the smoking wreckage and into the alien forest. The trees were massive with smooth bark that felt warm to the touch. Vines hung like curtains between the trunks, and flowers bloomed in colors that had no names. The sound of running water came from somewhere ahead, and Jake followed it, hoping to find a stream. What Jake didn't know was that he was being watched. High above the jungle canopy, small metal spheres drifted silently through the air. Each sphere was no bigger than a baseball, but packed with sensors that could detect heat signatures and movement from miles away. The spheres belonged to the Kalahari Empire, and they had been monitoring the crash site since the moment the Aurora hit the ground. The data from the spheres was transmitted instantly to an orbital station that circled Zarian 7 like a small moon. Inside the station, Princess Zara Velthara studied the readings with growing interest. The Kalahari had been watching this sector of space for months, but they had never seen a ship design like the Aurora. Princess Zara was tall and elegant, with silver skin that seemed to glow in the station's artificial light. Her large amber eyes could see far more than human eyes, and her fingers were longer and more delicate than any human hand. She wore the deep blue robes of Kalahari royalty, but her mind was focused on science rather than politics. "The creature appears to be bipedal," reported her chief scanner operator. "It shows remarkable adaptability to the planetary environment and seems to possess above-average intelligence for a primitive species." Princess Zara watched the displays as Jake made his way through the jungle below. The readings showed that he was unlike any species in the Kalahari database. His genetic structure appeared to be incredibly complex with patterns that seemed to shift and change as the scanners analyzed them. "Prepare a capture team," Princess Zara ordered. "I want this specimen brought to the laboratory immediately." The Kalahari had been studying alien life forms for thousands of years. They were master geneticists who could clone any species they encountered, but they had never found a species as genetically complex as the human walking through the jungle below. Princess Zara felt her scientific curiosity awakening in a way it hadn't for decades. Jake had been walking for hours when he finally found the stream. The water was clear and cool and tasted clean when he tested it with his field kit. He was filling his water containers when he heard a sound like wind chimes behind him. Jake turned to see three figures emerging from the jungle. They were tall and graceful with silver skin that reflected the filtered sunlight. Their eyes were large and golden, and they moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost like dancing. Jake had never seen anything like them before, but he knew immediately that they were intelligent and advanced. "Don't move," Jake said as he slowly reached for his sidearm, but one of the figures raised a device that looked like a crystal wand. Jake felt a strange tingling sensation spread through his body, and then everything went dark. When Jake woke up, he was lying on a soft surface in a room filled with white light. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of transparent material, and he could see figures moving beyond them. He tried to sit up, but found that his body felt heavy and sluggish. A door opened silently, and Princess Zara entered the room. She was even more beautiful up close with features that seemed carved from precious metal. Her amber eyes studied Jake with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You are awake," she said, and Jake was surprised to hear her speak English. "My name is Princess Zara Velthara of the Kalahari Empire. You are now my guest and subject of study." Princess Zara led Jake through corridors filled with soft blue light and walls that seemed to pulse with life. The Kalahari station was unlike anything Jake had ever seen, with technology that appeared to be grown rather than built. Strange symbols glowed on surfaces as they passed, and Jake could hear a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Where are you taking me?" Jake asked, but Princess Zara remained silent as they walked. Her silver skin seemed to shimmer in the artificial light, and her movements were so fluid that she appeared to be floating rather than walking. Jake noticed that other Kalahari they passed stopped to bow respectfully to the princess. They entered a large laboratory, filled with equipment that looked more like art than science. Curved surfaces of crystal and metal hummed with energy, while holographic displays showed patterns that hurt Jake's eyes to look at directly. In the center of the room stood a tall figure in white robes who turned to greet them. "This is Dr. Keth Norin," Princess Zara said. "He is our chief geneticist and will be conducting your examination." Dr. Norin approached Jake with eyes that seemed to glow with internal light. His features were sharper than Princess Zara's and his movements more precise. When he spoke, his voice had a musical quality that made Jake feel strangely relaxed. "I have studied thousands of species," Dr. Norin said as he activated a scanning device. "Your genetic structure is unlike anything in our database. The complexity is remarkable." Jake felt a warm, tingling sensation as the scanner moved over his body. The device made no sound, but holographic displays around the room began showing patterns that seemed to shift and change constantly. Dr. Norin's eyes widened as he studied the readings. "Princess, this is extraordinary," Dr. Norin said. "The genetic patterns show adaptive capabilities that exceed our theoretical models. This species appears to have evolved defensive mechanisms against genetic manipulation." Princess Zara moved closer to examine the displays. Jake watched as her expression changed from curiosity to fascination to something that looked almost like hunger. Her amber eyes reflected the holographic patterns as she studied his genetic code. "Begin the cloning process immediately," Princess Zara ordered. "I want to understand how this genetic structure functions." Dr. Norin nodded and began preparing the cloning equipment. Jake watched in horror as machines emerged from the floor and ceiling to surround him. He tried to move but found that his body was somehow paralyzed by the scanning device. "You can't do this," Jake said. "I'm a sentient being with rights. Making a clone of me without permission is wrong." Princess Zara looked at him with an expression that might have been confusion. "You are a specimen from a primitive species. Your genetic material will help us understand biological diversity. The clone will be returned to your people while you remain here for study." Jake felt a sharp pain in his arm as Dr. Norin extracted cellular samples. The samples were placed in devices that looked like glowing eggs while machines hummed and clicked around them. Jake could see his own genetic pattern displayed in the air above the cloning chambers. "Initiating replication sequence," Dr. Norin announced as the chambers began to glow brighter. But within moments alarms began to sound and warning lights flashed throughout the laboratory. "What's happening?" Princess Zara demanded as the cloning chambers sparked and went dark. Dr. Norin worked frantically at his controls. "The genetic material is rejecting the cloning process. The DNA structure appears to be actively defending itself against replication." Jake watched as his genetic pattern twisted and writhed in the holographic display. The beautiful mathematical sequences that Dr. Norin had shown earlier were now chaotic and aggressive. It was as if his DNA was fighting back against the Kalahari technology. "Try again," Princess Zara ordered. "Use a different approach." Dr. Norin prepared new samples and activated backup cloning systems. The results were the same. Jake's genetic material seemed to attack the cloning process itself, creating failures that damaged the expensive equipment. After 6 attempts, Dr. Norin finally stopped. "I have never seen anything like this," Dr. Norin admitted. "The genetic structure appears to have evolved specifically to prevent cloning. Every attempt results in catastrophic failure." Princess Zara began pacing around the laboratory. Jake could see that she was frustrated and angry, but also more intrigued than ever. Her scientific curiosity had been awakened by something she couldn't understand or control. "There must be a way, Princess," Zara said. "Our technology has successfully cloned every species we have encountered. This primitive creature cannot be more advanced than the Kalahari Empire." Dr. Norin studied the genetic displays for several hours while Princess Zara watched Jake with growing intensity. Jake found himself oddly pleased that his DNA was giving the advanced aliens trouble. It seemed that humanity had at least one advantage over their captors. "I have a theory," Dr. Norin finally said. "The genetic structure appears to require a biological catalyst to stabilize. Direct integration with compatible genetic material might succeed where standard cloning has failed." Princess Zara turned to face the geneticist. "What do you mean by direct integration?" "A temporary merger of genetic materials," Dr. Norin explained. "Your royal bloodline carries the most adaptable Kalahari genetics. If you were to serve as a biological bridge, the cloning process might succeed." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Dr. Norin activated new displays showing complex biological processes. Princess Zara would be connected to the cloning system through neural interfaces. Her genetic material would merge temporarily with the specimen's DNA to create a stable matrix for replication. "Is the process safe?" Princess Zara asked. "Completely safe," Dr. Norin assured her. "The integration would last only minutes and result in a successful clone. The Kalahari reproductive system has evolved to adapt to genetic diversity. There would be no permanent effects." Princess Zara looked at Jake with determination. "Prepare the integration chamber. I will personally oversee this cloning attempt." Jake tried to protest but found his voice failing as the paralysis device increased its power. He watched helplessly as Dr. Norin prepared the integration equipment. The chamber looked like a crystal cocoon surrounded by flowing tubes and glowing conduits. "This is wrong," Jake managed to say. "You're making a mistake." Princess Zara ignored his protests as she removed her royal robes and stepped into the integration chamber. Her silver skin glowed in the strange light and her amber eyes never left Jake's face. She seemed excited by the challenge and eager to prove that Kalahari science could overcome any obstacle. "Begin the integration process," Princess Zara ordered. As the chamber sealed around her, Dr. Norin activated the machinery and Jake felt his cellular samples being drawn into the system. On the displays he could see his genetic pattern, beginning to merge with Princess Zara's DNA. The process looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Integration stable," Dr. Norin reported. "Genetic merger proceeding as planned." But Jake could see something in the displays that the Kalahari scientist was missing. The genetic patterns weren't just merging temporarily, they were bonding in ways that looked permanent and irreversible. Something was happening that Dr. Norin hadn't expected. The integration chamber hummed with energy as Princess Zara felt Jake's genetic material flowing into her system. The process was unlike anything she had experienced before. Where other species had felt cold and foreign, Jake's DNA seemed to warm her from the inside. The neural interfaces connected to her brain showed patterns of activity that made her feel strangely alive. Dr. Norin monitored the process from his control station. The displays showed Princess Zara's genetic pattern merging with Jake's in ways that seemed almost natural. The chaotic defensive patterns that had destroyed the cloning attempts were now flowing smoothly into the princess's biological systems. "Integration proceeding normally," Dr. Norin reported. "Genetic stability increasing. The human DNA appears to be responding positively to Royal Kalahari genetics." Jake watched from his restraints as Princess Zara's silver skin began to glow brighter. Her amber eyes were closed, but he could see rapid movement behind her eyelids. The tubes connected to the integration chamber pulsed with golden light as their genetic materials combined. "How much longer?" Princess Zara asked through the communication system. Her voice sounded different now, deeper and more resonant than before. "Another few minutes should be sufficient," Dr. Norin replied. "The genetic matrix is stabilizing beyond our projections. This integration is remarkably successful." But Jake could see something on the displays that worried him. The genetic patterns weren't just merging temporarily as Dr. Norin had promised. They were bonding together in complex spirals that looked permanent. The princess's DNA was accepting his genetic material in ways that seemed to go far beyond simple cloning. Princess Zara suddenly gasped and her eyes flew open. The golden light in the tubes intensified and alarms began to sound throughout the laboratory. Her amber eyes had changed color and now held flecks of brown that looked almost human. "Something's wrong," Princess Zara said as she tried to sit up in the integration chamber. "I feel different. My body is changing." Dr. Norin rushed to his controls as warning lights flashed across his displays. "The integration is continuing beyond planned parameters. The genetic bonding is becoming permanent." Jake felt a strange tingling sensation spread through his body even though he was no longer connected to the system. It was as if something invisible was linking him to Princess Zara across the laboratory. He could almost feel her confusion and growing alarm. "Stop the process," Princess Zara ordered, but Dr. Norin was already working frantically to shut down the integration chamber. "The system is not responding," Dr. Norin said. "The genetic merger has created a biological lock. I cannot separate the DNA patterns." Princess Zara's silver skin began to show patches of pink coloration that looked almost human. Her breathing became rapid and shallow as changes spread throughout her body. The genetic integration was transforming her in ways that Kalahari science had never recorded. "What is happening to me?" Princess Zara demanded as she finally managed to sit up in the chamber. The neural interfaces disconnected automatically, but the golden light continued to pulse through the tubes. Dr. Norin studied his readings with growing alarm. "The human genetic material has triggered biological responses that are not in our database. Your reproductive system is showing activity patterns that suggest—" "Suggest what?" Princess Zara interrupted. Dr. Norin's face went pale. "The readings indicate that you have become pregnant. The genetic integration has resulted in successful reproduction rather than cloning." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Princess Zara stared at Dr. Norin in shock while Jake felt his world tilt on its axis. The idea that an alien princess could become pregnant from a cloning attempt seemed impossible. That cannot be correct, Princess Zara said. Kalahari cannot reproduce with alien species. Our biology is incompatible with primitive genetics. But Dr. Noren was running additional scans and the results were unmistakable. The human genetic structure appears to have evolved compatibility markers that match ancient Kalahari reproductive triggers. Your body has interpreted the integration as successful mating. Princess Zara climbed out of the integration chamber on unsteady legs. Her silver skin now showed definite human characteristics and her amber eyes held new emotions that looked strange on her alien features. She walked slowly toward Jake's restraining device. "This is impossible," Princess Zara whispered. "I am third heir to the Kalahari throne. I cannot be pregnant with an alien hybrid." Jake looked up at her and saw something that surprised him. Beneath her shock and fear was a look of wonder. Princess Zara was touching her stomach with trembling fingers as if she could already feel the life growing inside her. "How far along?" Princess Zara asked Dr. Noren. "Based on the biological markers, I would estimate approximately 2 weeks equivalent," Dr. Noren replied. "The gestation period is unclear as we have no reference for human Kalahari reproduction." "Princess." Zara turned to Jake with eyes that now held flecks of human brown mixed with alien amber. "What do you know about human pregnancy?" Jake struggled against his restraints. "Let me out of this device and I'll tell you everything I know." Princess Zara hesitated, then activated the release mechanism. Jake felt sensation returning to his limbs as he stood up carefully. The paralysis device had left him weak, but he could move freely for the first time since his capture. "Human pregnancy lasts approximately 9 months, Jake said. "The process is natural and usually results in live birth. But I don't know how human genetics will interact with your biology." Dr. Noren was studying his displays with intense concentration. The biological readings suggest an accelerated development pattern. The hybrid nature of the pregnancy appears to be creating unique characteristics from both species. Princess Zara sat down heavily in a chair that molded itself to her changing body. "If the Kalahari Council discovers this, it will destroy my claim to the throne. Royal bloodlines must remain pure according to ancient law." "What about the baby?" Jake asked. "What happens to our child?" The words surprised both of them. Neither had intended to think of the developing life as their child, but the genetic bond created by the integration made it impossible to ignore their connection. "I don't know," Princess Zara admitted. "Kalahari law has no provision for hybrid offspring. The child would be considered an abomination by traditionalists, but a scientific miracle by researchers." Dr. Noren approached them carefully. "Princess, we must decide how to proceed. The pregnancy cannot be hidden indefinitely. You're changing. Appearance will be noticed by the medical staff." Princess Zara looked at Jake with new understanding. "I brought you here as a specimen to be studied and cloned. Instead, you have given me something I never expected." "What's that?" Jake asked. "A reason to question everything I believed about my people and our place in the universe," Princess Zara replied. "The Kalahari consider themselves superior to all other species. But if we can create life with humans, then perhaps we are not so different." Jake felt the strange tingling sensation again as he looked at Princess Zara. The genetic bond between them was growing stronger, and he could sense her emotions as if they were his own. Fear, wonder, and something else he couldn't identify. "We need to figure out what happens next," Jake said. "This pregnancy changes everything." Princess Zara nodded, and Jake realized that their fates were now linked in ways that neither of them had chosen, but both would have to accept. Princess Zara moved Jake to new quarters that looked more like a luxury apartment than a prison cell. The walls were made of the same flowing crystal material, but they showed images of peaceful landscapes instead of blank surfaces. Jake had a comfortable bed, a food dispenser that produced surprisingly good meals, and windows that showed the stars beyond the station. "This is temporary," Princess Zara explained as she showed him around the space. "I need time to decide what to do about our situation." Jake noticed that she had said "our situation" instead of "my problem" and wondered if the genetic bond was affecting her thinking. He could feel her emotions more clearly now, a constant background presence that let him know when she was worried. Or frightened. What about Dr. Norin? Jake asked. Can you trust him to keep the pregnancy secret? Princess Zara touched her stomach in a gesture that was becoming automatic. Keth has served my family for decades. He will remain silent if I order it, but he is also curious about the scientific implications. The first human Kalahari hybrid is a discovery that could change everything. Over the following days, Princess Zara visited Jake regularly to discuss the pregnancy and learn about human culture. She was fascinated by concepts that seemed natural to Jake but were foreign to Kalahari society. The idea of emotional bonds between parents and children was particularly intriguing to her. Kalahari. Young are raised by educational specialists, Princess Zara explained during one of their conversations. Parents provide genetic material but have little contact with their offspring. The needs of the empire take priority over personal attachments. Jake found this coldness disturbing. Human children need love and attention from their parents. The emotional bond is as important as physical care. Princess Zara looked confused. But emotional attachments can interfere with rational decision-making. Kalahari leaders must be able to think clearly without the distraction of personal feelings. Emotions don't make us weak, Jake replied. They give us reasons to be strong. I would fight harder to protect someone I love than to serve an abstract empire. These conversations continued for weeks as Princess Zara's pregnancy progressed. Jake could see the changes in her body as human characteristics became more pronounced. Her silver skin now had patches of pink flesh, and her amber eyes held more brown than gold. The transformation was beautiful, but also dangerous for someone. In her position, Dr. Norin visited them regularly to monitor the pregnancy and document the changes. He was fascinated by the biological processes, but also worried about the implications for Princess Zara's future. The pregnancy is progressing faster than human normal but slower than Kalahari standard, Dr. Norin reported during one examination. The hybrid nature is creating a unique developmental pattern that combines traits from both species. Princess Zara was experiencing sensations that no Kalahari had ever felt before. The emotional changes were as dramatic as the physical ones. She found herself caring about Jake's welfare in ways that went beyond scientific interest. I used to think that studying alien species was like examining interesting rocks, Princess Zara told Jake one evening as they watched the stars together. Now I understand that every species has inner lives as complex as our own. Jake felt a surge of affection through their bond. You're not the same person who captured me. The pregnancy is changing more than just your body. Princess Zara nodded. I feel emotions that have no names in the Kalahari language. When I think about our child, I experience something that might be what humans call love. Their relationship deepened as they shared these intimate conversations. Jake began to see past Princess Zara's alien appearance to the person beneath. She was intelligent and curious, but also lonely and burdened by expectations she had never questioned. What will happen when the baby is born? Jake asked one day as they felt the first movements of their child. Princess Zara's expression grew troubled. I don't know. Kalahari law requires that I report any significant biological discoveries to the council. Our child would be taken for study and experimentation. The thought of their baby being treated as a laboratory specimen horrified Jake. We can't let that happen. There has to be another way. Princess Zara was quiet for a long moment. There might be. But it would require me to give up everything I have ever known. Before Jake could ask what she meant, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Princess Zara's communicator activated and Dr. Norin's voice filled the room. Princess, we have a problem. I detected Dr. Vash conducting unauthorized scans of the laboratory. He may have discovered evidence of the pregnancy. Princess Zara went pale. Dr. Vash is a council loyalist. If he reports this to the authorities, everything will be exposed. Jake felt Princess Zara's fear through their bond, and his own protective instincts awakened. Who is Dr. Vash? The station's chief medical officer? Princess Zara replied. He reports directly to the Kalahari Council and has never approved of my research methods. Dr. Norn's voice continued through the communicator. He is requesting a meeting with you immediately. I believe he intends to confront you about the pregnancy. Princess Zara stood and began pacing the room. Jake could feel her emotions churning through their bond, fear, anger, and a growing determination that surprised him. I won't let them take our child, Princess Zara said with conviction that seemed to surprise her as much as Jake. What can we do? Jake asked. Princess Zara stopped pacing and looked at him with eyes that now held more human determination than alien detachment. We can run. There are neutral worlds where humans and Kalahari could live together. Our child could grow up free from both our societies. Jake stood and moved closer to her. That would mean giving up your position, your family, everything you've ever known. I've spent my life serving an empire that sees other species as specimens too. Be studied, Princess Zara replied. Maybe it's time to serve something more important. The communicator activated again, and Dr. Norn's voice was urgent. Princess, Dr. Vash is approaching your quarters with security personnel. You need to leave now. Princess Zara grabbed Jake's hand and led him toward a hidden panel in the wall. The service tunnels connect to the shuttle bay. We can escape before they reach us. As they ran through the narrow passages, Jake felt Princess Zara's resolve strengthen through their bond. She was choosing him and their unborn child over duty to her people. The decision was transforming her from a Kalahari princess into something new. Are you sure about this? Jake asked as they reached the shuttle bay. Princess Zara looked at him with eyes that held both alien amber and human brown. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of security forces searching the station. Princess Zara activated a small ship, and they climbed aboard as the bay doors began to open. Where will we go? Jake asked as they launched into space. Somewhere we can be free, Princess Zara replied as she set course for the outer rim. The small ship raced through space as Princess Zara and Jake fled from the Kalahari station. Behind them, they could see pursuit vessels launching, but their head start gave them precious time to reach the outer rim where neutral territories offered sanctuary. Jake watched Princess Zara pilot the ship with skill he hadn't expected while monitoring communication channels for signs of their pursuers. They're broadcasting accusations that I have stolen valuable research specimens, Princess Zara said, as she listened to the Kalahari military frequencies. The Council believes you have contaminated my mind with primitive human emotions. Jake felt anger surge through their bond. They still think of me as a thing instead of a person. Princess Zara reached over and took his hand. I thought the same way when I first captured you. The pregnancy has opened my eyes to truths I was too proud to see before. Their ship shuddered as energy beams flashed past the viewports. The Kalahari pursuit vessels were faster and more heavily armed, but Princess Zara knew shortcuts through the asteroid fields that her military cousins had never learned. She guided their ship between massive rocks while their pursuers struggled to follow. There's a trading station ahead, Princess Zara said as she checked the navigation displays. It's neutral territory where both humans and Kalahari are welcome. We can hide there until the baby is born. Jake felt their child moving inside Princess Zara's womb as if responding to the excitement. The pregnancy was progressing rapidly now, and he estimated they had perhaps 2 weeks before birth. The baby would be the first human-Kalahari hybrid. Ever born, and Jake wondered what kind of life they could provide. The trading station was a massive structure, built into a large asteroid. Ships from dozens of species docked at the various ports while traders and travelers moved through the busy corridors. Princess Zara docked their ship in a section reserved for refugees, and they made their way into the station. We need new identities, Princess Zara said as they walked through the crowded marketplace. My royal markings make me too recognizable. They found a biomodification clinic run by a species that specialized in cosmetic changes. For a reasonable fee, the technician altered Princess Zara's silver skin to a more human tone and changed her amber eyes to brown. The transformation was temporary but would last long enough for them to establish new lives. Jake watched Princess Zara examine herself in the mirror after the procedure. She looked almost entirely human now except for her height and the graceful way she moved. The changes seemed to please her more than they saddened her. "I feel more like myself than I have in years," Princess Zara said. "Being royal meant wearing masks and playing roles. Now I can just be who I really am." They rented a small apartment in the residential section of the station and began preparing for their child's birth. Jake used his knowledge of human medicine, while Princess Zara contributed Kalahari medical technology. Together they created a birth plan that would give their hybrid baby the best chance of survival. 2 weeks later, Princess Zara went into labor during the station's night cycle. Jake stayed with her throughout the difficult birth while automated medical systems monitored their child's development. The labor lasted 18 hours as their baby struggled to enter a universe that had never seen anything like them. When their daughter finally arrived, she was perfect in ways that took their breath away. She had Princess Zara's delicate features but Jake's brown eyes. Her skin was a beautiful blend of silver and pink that seemed to shimmer in the light. Most remarkably, she seemed to radiate a sense of peace that affected everyone who came near her. "She's beautiful," Princess Zara whispered as she held their daughter for the first time. "What should we name her?" Jake looked at his alien princess holding their hybrid child and felt a love so strong it made his chest ache. "How about Hope? She represents hope for both our species." Princess Zara smiled, and Jake realized it was the first time he had seen her truly happy. "Hope Sullivan Valthara, a name that honors both our worlds." Their daughter grew quickly with intelligence that surpassed both human and Kalahari children. By 6 months, she was walking and speaking simple words in both languages. Her abilities seemed to combine the best traits of both species: human creativity and emotional intelligence with Kalahari logic and enhanced senses. Word of the hybrid child spread throughout the trading station despite Jake and Princess Zara's attempts at secrecy. Representatives from various species came to meet Hope and study her unique nature. Most were amazed by her abilities and gentle disposition. One day, Dr. Norin arrived at their apartment with news from the Kalahari Empire. Princess Zara invited him in with mixed emotions, uncertain whether he had come as friend or enemy. "The council has declared you dead," Dr. Norin told Princess Zara. "They claim you died in an experimental accident caused by contact with primitive alien genetics." Princess Zara felt sadness through their bond but also relief. "So I am free from royal obligations forever." Dr. Norin nodded. "But there are others who know the truth. Scientists who want to study your daughter and politicians who see her as either a threat or an opportunity." Jake moved protectively closer to Princess Zara and Hope. "No one will use our daughter for their own purposes." Dr. Norin raised his hands peacefully. "I came to warn you, not to threaten you. There are groups from both human and Kalahari space who plan to find you. The trading station is no longer safe." Princess Zara looked at Jake with determination. "Then we go deeper into neutral space. There are worlds where no government has authority, and people can live freely." They packed their few possessions and prepared to leave the trading station. As they walked toward their ship, Jake felt Princess Zara's emotions through their bond. No regret, no fear, only love for him and their daughter. "Are you sure this is what you want?" Jake asked as they launched into space. "You could try to return to your people and reclaim your position." Princess Zara looked at Hope sleeping peacefully in her arms and then at Jake with eyes full of love. "I have everything I want right here. Our daughter will grow up free to choose her own path between our worlds." They set course for a distant world where humans and aliens lived together in peaceful communities. Their ship flew toward a future full of uncertainty, but also infinite possibility. Hope would grow up as a bridge between species, living proof that love could overcome any difference. As they traveled through space, Princess Zara taught Jake the Kalahari language while he shared human stories and songs. Their daughter listened to everything with bright eyes that seemed to understand more than any child should. She was their gift to the universe, a symbol of cooperation and hope. For the future, the stars stretched endlessly ahead of them as they flew toward their new home together. Behind them, the great empires of humanity and the Kalahari continued their ancient Separation, but ahead lay worlds where such boundaries no longer mattered. Hope slept peacefully between her parents, dreaming dreams that might one day unite the galaxy.